Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. I hope you're having a cracking day and I hope you had an awesome weekend filled with love, joy, family, friends, whatever it was. I hope you had an awesome time. Today we are reacting to the miracle on the Hudson. Now, I don't know a lot about this story. I've heard about it before. Obviously, I know it was a plane that crashed onto the Hudson River, but this is a request from a gentleman by the name of Keith. He sent me an email asking me to check this video out, and it sounds pretty interesting, so I'm quite keen to do so. Anyway, thank you, Keith, for the email, mate. It was great talking to you. Awesome guy. Awesome. It was a nice chat. If any of you guys want to get in contact with me, my email address is always in the description. Feel free to find me an email. I love getting your emails. So we're going to be checking out the miracle on the Hudson today. But before we do, please make sure you hit the subscribe button, and if you're feeling extra frisky, you may as well hit the like button as well. I do have a Buy Me a Coffee page and a Patreon page linked down in the description if you want to help support the channel. But as usual, please feel no obligation to do so. And without further ado, let's check out the miracle on the Hudson.
January 15th, 2009 may not be immediately recognisable as a remarkable date, but the events that transpired certainly were. That was the day a US Airways A320 crash landed in the Hudson River.
That's a big plane. I thought it was one of those little planes. I told you I didn't know anything about it.
Thanks to the pilot's skills and response, all 150 passengers and crew survived.
Oh,
the event
good.
became known as the miracle on the Hudson. But
Thank goodness it's a happy ending. Jesus, that's a huge plane. I thought it was going to be one of those little, private little plane things. 150 passengers plus crew.
exactly
Holy
happened
smokes.
that day? And how has it changed aviation and pilot training since? US Airways 1549, or Cactus 1549 according to its call sign, was scheduled to fly from LaGuardia, New York City to Charlotte, North Carolina on the afternoon of January 15, 2009. The flight was operated by an Airbus A320-214, registration November 106 Uniform Sierra, delivered new to US Airways in August 1999 and powered by
99.
two General Electric
I thought it was only a few months old, 1999.
CFM56 engines. In charge of the flights was Captain Chesley Sullenberger, well known by his nickname Solly, with First Officer Jeffrey Skiles. Both of these men had vast amounts of flying experience. A former military pilot, Captain Sullenberger had nearly 20,000 hours of flying at the time of the accident, including 4,756 hours on the A320. Jeffrey Skiles, meanwhile, was newly transferred to the type with only 37 hours on the A320, but still had accumulated over 20,000 flying hours in total during his career. The pre-flight and initial takeoff run was normal. However, early in the climb, just under 3,000 feet and around 4.5 miles from LaGuardia, the aircraft hit a flock of Canada geese, significantly obscuring the pilot's windscreen view.
Oh, man.
Almost immediately, both engines shut down, but the aircraft continued.
Oh, I didn't know it hit, I thought it just hit geese. Flippin' heck. I've been driving along in a car before and I hit a pheasant and I was going about 70 mile an hour, maybe 50, 60 mile an hour, and I hit a pheasant and I nearly lost control. Can you imagine doing it in a plane, hitting freaking Canada geese and losing engines? Holy
for a further
crap.
19 seconds. It then entered a glide descent as the pilots responded. Captain Sullenberger took control of the aircraft and started the Auxiliary Power Unit, or APU, since Skiles had flown the takeoff, while Skiles attempted to restart the engines. 22 seconds after the bird strike, Sullenberger made a mayday call, calmly reporting, "This is Cactus 1549, hit birds. We've lost thrust on both engines. We're turning back towards LaGuardia." Sullenberger initially requested to return to LaGuardia, but the pilot soon realized this was not possible and requested landing options at Teterboro Airport, just a few miles west of Manhattan in New Jersey. They were cleared for an approach to runway 1, but quickly responded that they also could not make that and would end up in the Hudson. Closed-circuit television cameras and the air traffic control recording provide a clear picture of how the events unfolded, demonstrating the professionalism of the controllers and aircrew. After passing over the George Washington Bridge at just 900 feet, the aircraft ditched in the...
I'm sorry, I'd be screaming like a little girl inside that plane. I would be absolutely bricking it. I mean, I'm not scared of flying per se, But when I've been flying, we flew to South Africa quite a long time ago. I haven't been over there since my daughter was 3 and she's 13 now. And we hit major turbulence. She was fast asleep. And I can tell you something now. I left that plane. There must have been fingerprints in the armrest. I was absolutely shitting myself. Excuse my language.
Hudson at 3:31 p.m. The flight had lasted just 5 minutes. Such an unpowered water landing is, of course, extremely dangerous, and the success of this justifies the event later being dubbed the Miracle on the Hudson.
That is
While
insane.
manufacturers and regulators have procedures for water landings, or ditching as it's known, in practice these are rare occurrences. Passengers were evacuated onto the wings and the emergency slides. However, the evacuation was somewhat hampered by water entering the fuselage, caused by an open door at the rear of the cabin, as well as fuselage damage from landing. But by chance, this A320 aircraft was equipped for extended overwater use, meaning there was full life vest provision and the exit slides could detach to be used as rafts. The plane landed in the North River section of the Hudson, roughly in line with West 50th Street on the New York side and Weehawken on the New Jersey side. There were several boats close to the ditching site which headed out to assist immediately. To New York.
We did that one with the boat lift, didn't we? And like, it's amazing how quick people are ready to just help. That water must have been freezing as well. It was January, wasn't it? That must have been so cold.
Waterway ferries were the first to arrive and immediately started taking passengers on board. Coast Guard and other ships were close behind, and emergency services quickly assembled on the shore. All passengers were removed from the plane and water by 3:55 p.m. just 24 minutes after ditching.
That's insane.
Following the crash, there was a full National Transportation Safety Board investigation. Combing through all piloting and technical aspects of the incident and ditching, it subsequently made several recommendations for improvements. It determined that the probable cause of the incident was the ingestion of large birds into each engine, which resulted in an almost total loss of thrust in both engines. There were also extensive flight simulator reenactments of the flight. These focused on the possibility of returning to LaGuardia or diverting to Teterboro. An important issue here was pilot reaction and consideration time. Simulations with an immediate turn to an airport were partly successful, but not so when a reaction delay was added. The investigation concluded that Sullenberger's decision was correct.
Yeah, I was going to say.
The APU early proved vital in the later stages of the ditching, as it maintained power for all systems. Sullenberger did this immediately, whereas it was a later task in the checklist for dual engine failure. Selecting flaps 2 instead of flaps 3 was also discussed and tested. This reduced drag and allowed for a better nose altitude on hitting the water. Ultimately, several factors came together to make the ditching successful or miraculous. As well as fast and appropriate action by the pilots and good weather and clear visibility on the day, an aircraft equipped for a water landing, fast reactions from the cabin crew, and the landing close to boats able to respond all contributed.
Jeez, yeah. It's like everything worked together that day. Holy crap. I never knew. Like, you always hear about birds. Oh, what if a bird hits? And you're like, I've never really given much thought to it. I'll tell you what, I'm going to now. If I see geese or something anywhere near an airport, thanks, mate, I'd rather walk.
Such incidents, the investigation made recommendations for further safety improvements. The NTSB report made 34 such recommendations, but some highlights include changes to bird strike testing and engine certification. Of course, the A320 and the engines are tested for bird strikes and should be able to withstand even a serious multiple bird impact. Crucial here was the size of the birds. Canada geese are large,
huge,
and the low speed of the aircraft. The investigation found that at least 2 birds had been ingested into each engine, their size had caused enough damage to prevent engine restart. Further work to develop and implement technologies on aircraft to reduce the chances of a bird strike. Introducing a checklist for dual engine failure at low altitude. The original checklist was designed for high altitude where the crew would have more time. Many parts of the checklist were not relevant or in the wrong order for the situation. Amending checklists to reflect the need to disable the ground proximity warning system on Airbus aircraft. This was left enabled in the ditching, so ground alerts overrode other alerts such as low-speed warnings. Changes to onboard safety equipment. This included the recommendation that all aircraft carry life vests and ensure adequate briefing on use regardless of route. Some internal redesign of the A318, A319, A320 and A321 to minimise the risk of certain beams intruding into the cabin. This had caused some injuries on ditching. And finally, improvement in pilot training for a dual engine failure after takeoff and ditching without power. In an unusual twist, the airframe of this particular A320 has been preserved. Typically, after accidents, the aircraft is often badly damaged with limited future for the airframe after the investigation. However, the damaged aircraft was removed from the Hudson on January 17th.
Look at it though, there's hardly any, like from here you can't see major damage to it, can you?
Transferred to Kearney, New Jersey for investigation. Following the investigation conclusion, it was put up for auction but was not purchased. Over 2 years later, in June 2011, it was donated to the Carolinas Aviation Museum by the American International Group, or AIG. Here, it went on display along with more information about the incident and recordings of passenger and crew experiences. The water landing of US Airways 1549 remains one of the most incredible aviation stories in recent times. The pilot's quick thinking, especially over a dense metropolitan area, averted an untold tragedy.
Yeah.
The subsequent investigation yielded useful insight for future flight training. Where were you when you heard about Flight 1549? And what other incredible aviation stories would you like?
I tell you what, that is amazing to me. I never knew it went so. I thought it was just some little passenger plane, little small one, landed on there, nothing too serious. If it wasn't for that pilot's fast thinking and his complete and utter skill and being a badass, like the guy said, he could have crashed into the city and killed not only the people on the plane, but like pedestrians or people in their houses. He did such an awesome job and he saved everyone that day. I think he is freaking awesome and he deserves like a bit of a raise or a pat on the back or something. Holy smokes, man. That is scary. Just thinking about the plane going down, I'd be freaking out. But it just shows when you got a skillful bloody pilot who knows what he's doing, maybe it's not going to be too terrible. And at least they weren't too high up. Well, I don't know. There's just everything seemed to work their way. Apart from the bloody, geese hitting the engines, everything else seemed to just go their way in order to get them out safely, which is freaking awesome. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.